Joe, I cannot stand this refrigerator.
Why?
Well, I mean, it takes forever to get cold. And then sometimes it just like arbitrarily shuts off and gets hot again. So like I can never count that I'm going to have a cold beverage. Plus, the things to stack in here are really weird. I cannot stand these fins at the back. These things never stay in. It's really annoying. Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Joe.
And we are
two crazy campers after losing a combined weight of more than 200 pounds.
We realized we had so much more energy for activities.
Come along with us as we explore the great outdoors.
And join us on a brand new adventure. However, I do not know if we will have cold beverages on this adventure because of this stinking refrigerator.
So we have an absorption fridge, and they're really efficient if you're boondocking because they can run on propane.
But we're not boondocking all the time.
We don't boondock all the time. And here's the thing. And I know this is a huge controversy in the RV world. My personal opinion is you should not drive down the road with your propane on.
There is no controversy in this house, though.
Well, there's an open flame in the back with propane running to it. And if you happen to have a blowout, there's a good chance your rig's going to explode. Plus, you're not supposed to be driving through tunnels and stuff with your propane running.
I don't even run a crock pot if I'm not home. So, yeah, I want the propane off if we're driving.
Aside from that, the problem with absorption fridges is they take a really long time to get cold. I mean, we just put up a video of like how we prepare for like our trips. And
basically freeze stuff and then put it into the refrigerator.
Yeah, and you have to get it cold like 24 hours prior. And then if you put something warm in there, you can have the temperature jump up 10, 15 degrees. Like we were camping in New York visiting my mom, and we went and got some sodas, put just a warm 12-pack in there because we didn't have any other place to put it. And the temperature jumped from 37 degrees to 54 degrees.
And that is not good for the other things in our refrigerator.
Right.
And we were fully packed because we were on a 10-day trip and we buy all of our food. We're not going out to eat. So I don't want to take a chance that I'm going to lose my yogurt.
Yep.
Because the fridge isn't cold enough.
So welcome to the next episode of Renovating Eleanor.
Yeah.
And the goal of this series, or the purpose of this series, is to make Eleanor the perfect RV. So we went on a hunt for the perfect couples camper. We decided Eleanor was number 2. Like the only one that was better was the Grand Design 2670. But that was out of our league price-wise. It was a little bit longer than we want. And right now, you can't even find a camper. So we're going to make Eleanor the perfect RV.
Well, and I love so much about Eleanor. I feel like she has the perfect layout for us. Like, I like the bathroom where it is. I like the kitchen where it is. I like the bedroom where it is. I like a refrigerator where this is, but not this refrigerator.
You're not going to like what I'm about to do, though. So
we're going to get a cooler.
When we were actually shopping for Eleanor, before we bought Eleanor, we were looking at Jayco's. And one of the things that I really wanted was a 12-volt compressor fridge. The new technology is amazing. A lot of them can like literally run on 1 amp. Wait. And considering we don't boondock a lot, like 1 amp and 300 watts of solar on the roof, that's awesome. Like, we'll be able to boondock even with a 12-volt fridge.
Are you going to try to take this out?
Yes, that's what we're doing in today's episode.
You're taking the refrigerator out.
Well, it's a little worse than that. So, I recently reached out to Rec Pro. There's a link down below. And if you use
like recreation, not like W-R-E.
No, R-E-C-P-R-O. So if you use the link down below, you're going to get 5% off. And they have like furniture and air conditioners, and they have refrigerators. And they supplied us with a new fridge.
Oh my gosh.
So we got to put this fridge in. But here's the catch. You're not going to be wanting to be part of this one, though.
I'm not going to want to see this.
The new fridge doesn't fit in this hole.
Oh, sweet Lord.
So it's, I get to have you gorgeous in this picture. It's the same width. It's the same depth, but the new fridge
is higher?
Is 4 inches taller than this one.
So you're going to have to cut a hole.
I'm going to cut a hole in the RV. But the new fridge, we're going from a 6 cubic foot here to the new fridge is 10 cubic feet. So you're almost going to double the amount of space you have.
Will it keep it cold?
It's a compressor fridge, so it works just like what you have in the house. It'll start getting cold within 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
It runs on battery, so as we're driving down the road on a long drive, like when we go to Texas or something like that, it'll keep going cold even while we're driving. And it can run on solar panels.
Oh my gosh.
But we got to put a hole in the RV.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to go hide. I'm hiding.
So in this video, I'm going to destroy the refrigerator and install a new one. And at some point, may need her help to lift this one out.
No, I don't want to look.
So now that Rachel's gone, we can begin the demolition. So we're going to go to step one. That is to get this thing out. So a couple things we're going to do. Number one, we're going to turn off the power. We're going to disconnect the propane. And we're also going to then drain the line. Before we do that, I want to show you what we have to do to get this out. So behind this control panel right here, and pretty much all of them are similar. This comes off right here. There is one screw right here that's underneath the tape. And then there's another screw over here. I already took these two screws out. Then we're gonna open up the refrigerator. And down here on the bottom, there's a screw here and a screw here. And so we're gonna take those off. I can do this with one hand. So take that one out. Take that one out. So we'll take those out. And then this is just like a little trim piece. And that's it. That's all 4 screws inside that are holding the whole refrigerator in. Now, since we're not going to be using an electric refrigerator anymore, we're going to go ahead over here. We're going to turn off the refrigerator breaker. So this is my main. First one down is the refrigerator. We're not going to need the plug out there anymore. So we're going to check that. We're operating on gas right now. So if we switch this over, see if it turns on to AC. Yeah, so there's no AC, so we're good. So we're gonna turn this off. We're gonna go outside, disconnect the gas, then we have to take off the 12 volt. So we can actually go over here right now and pull the fuse. Now, the refrigerator is actually on the same as the furnace. So we're gonna pull it for now, but in the end, we're going to end up putting it back. Probably add another fuse in here somewhere or increase this fuse because the 12 volt's now gonna need a bigger one. So we're looking at 1, 2, third one down. So 1, 2, 3 down. So now we're going to come over here. I already loosened it up. And we're going to pull off the access panel. And there's actually only 2 screws back here to hold it in. There's one screw here, which I already took out. And there's another screw over here I already took out. From there, we have to disconnect 12 volt, which is these. So we're going to disconnect those in a minute. And then we're gonna need to disconnect the gas line. So that's right here. So I'm gonna go turn off the gas first, and then I'm gonna purge the line. So we're gonna turn off the gas. Make sure this one is off, although I usually only have one on. We're going to just turn on our gas burners and let them burn out. Let all that gas burn out of the line. Then we can go ahead and disconnect the gas. We're good. As soon as you do anything, let's turn this gas back off. So this way when you turn the gas back on, you don't accidentally have a gas leak. Okay, so I went ahead and loosened this with pliers so that I can hand unscrew it because I couldn't do it with one hand while holding the camera. And I realized I already have a problem. So I don't know why. I guess because of some of the other videos I saw, I thought I needed a female 3/8 cap, which will go over here, obviously. Only, I don't need to cap the refrigerator. I need to cap the gas line. So I'm going to have to run back to Home Depot, see if I can find a 3/8 plug. But other than that, everything's disconnected. I just need to disconnect the 12 volt over here. Okay, so we got everything disconnected. 12 volt is over here. I'm not even going to bother capping them because I have the fuse pulled, so I'm good there. I gave this thing a little push. It's gonna slide out, no problem. I ran to Home Depot and I got what I needed. So once again, this is our propane line that goes up to the propane tanks. We're not gonna cut it. We wanna cap it just in case whoever buys the rig years down the line when we sell it, they may wanna put back in, you know, a propane refrigerator. I don't know why, but they might want to. So we're just gonna go ahead and cap this. So because we have a female end here, I needed a 3/8 inch flare plug. Now make sure you get the flare. That's what the flare looks like, how it's kind of rounded there. And again, you're either going to need a plug or you're going to need a cap. So if you have a female end here, then you need a plug. If you were to have a male end, which is what you see here over on the refrigerator, then you would need a 3/8 inch female cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put on a little bit of pipe dope. It's not necessary, but we're dealing with propane. So we're going to go ahead and just to make sure, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of pipe dope on there. We're going to tighten this up, and then we're going to pull the fridge out. So we got the cap on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the fridge out. Before we get everything going, I'll get a little spray bottle of soapy water. We'll turn the gas on and make sure there's no leaks here. Right now we're going to get the fridge out. So we're going to head down inside. So everything is disconnected. I have the refrigerator about halfway out now. So I'm doing this by myself. Rachel's around the corner at our nephew's birthday party, and she doesn't want to be any part of this demolition anyway. So what I'm going to do is I have like this little like crate, like a storage crate. I'm going to pull the fridge out and kind of set it on there. It's not that it's heavy. It's only about 100 pounds, but it's awkward. So instead of letting it drop all the way to the ground, it's going to kind of rest on that, and then I can kind of shimmy it out of there. So we got it about halfway out. We're going to put this little green thing. It's not quite the right height, but it's all I got. I'm not going to waste the current lumber prices. I'm not trying to build something to stick this on. So again, it's not super heavy. I think it weighs like about 120 pounds. It's just really awkward. So I'm just going to shimmy it out until I can kind of start leaning it down, and also just make sure that nothing is still connected anywhere that I may have missed. And I don't see anything. We're going to slide this out a little bit more, and I think we're good. So I do see I completely forgot that I have the wires for the fans that I added. So I've got to go ahead and cut those. So I'm going to slide it back in and go cut those. So I completely forgot that we ran all of these wires for the fans that I put inside, as well as those fans you see up there in the roof. So we're going to go ahead and cut these because I don't want to pull anything by accident when I'm taking out the fridge. So the refrigerator's out, and you can see we pretty much just have a big open box. Now they have insulation here on the side. We may leave that. I don't know if we're going to need that or not. I don't know. We're going to have to take a look at the new fridge. Here's most of the wires, everything running down to the control box and everything. These are the two wires that we had that run up to the vent fans that I put in that other video. Now we will still have this hole down here. Nothing I can do about that. I probably could put like a board, but again, you do want to get the heat out from where the compressor is, so we're probably just going to leave that. Now, here's going to be the issue. The new refrigerator, I'm going to go pull it out of the box, should be the same width-wise, should be the same depth-wise. But height-wise, the new one is taller by about 5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this board out. So we're going to take off this molding. And then this is just going to be like little 1/4-inch plywood here probably. So we can see this. So we're just going to take this off carefully. And then once we get it in, we can figure out like how much do we need to cut, get it back in there, trim everything out again. So let's take a look at this thing. So once again, this is the Everchill. Right hand opening, so that's exactly what we want. Now this one can actually be switched if you need it to be left hand opening. It does have this little lock here. We're not going to take all the tape off because it's going to make it much easier to get into the RV with everything still taped shut. We'll go ahead and take a look at the back. So over here on the back, it's just nice and enclosed. Down here on the bottom, that's perfect because it's going to line right up with the vent system, so we can get some ventilation in there. And here's our electrical connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this thing, make sure everything fits. Then I'm going to pull down that one piece. We're going to slide it in, see how much more room we need. This way I can trim that piece and everything and make sure everything fits just perfectly and it looks like the rig actually came this way. So width-wise, we're good with the trim on here. We're just shy of 24 inches. We're at like 23 3/4 inches, so that's plenty. Now depth-wise, we may run into a little issue because of this propane line, so we may have to remove some of that sealant. We won't know until we start getting this thing in here, because all the way to this back cabinet, I've got 24 inches. And again, I believe that one part has to stick out. So that should be good. But I think this plug is going to be in the way. So we may have to relocate that outlet. The bigger thing is going to be dealing with this up here. So we're going to go ahead and remove this. And also, we're going to have to remove this. So this was just a thing to kind of deflect the heat up. So this is nothing. I mean, it's literally just a board. Now, as far as this board, we have a pocket screw here, and we have a pocket screw here, and then there's also a couple up on top. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those. Don't think I'm gonna be able to show you it with camera, but I'll try. So basically, this piece is stapled in, and then I think it's also glued in. So we're gonna use a screwdriver and try to carefully pry it out. They've got a bunch of like sealant holding it all in here. So I'm gonna get a razor knife, cut that sealant, make it a little bit easier. So we got that piece out. That revealed 2 more pocket screws up in this piece. So that's why I didn't pry anything out. So that's everything out, and I think we're gonna be able to leave this top trim. I think I have enough room, so I'm gonna go ahead and measure this opening, then we're gonna go recheck the fridge. Okay, so we got that piece out. Same thing, just a couple of pocket screws, and then also this piece on top had a couple screws. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna rip it. We only have to take about 1 inch off, but first I'm gonna put it in and then measure just to make sure, because I really want it to look like it's custom built. Okay, so I ripped it down to 2 inches. Now, the only problem with this is just like a side note. All of these cabinets, they are solid wood, but they don't stain them. They put like this paper sticker across it, so everything like tears. So the best thing to do is I've got one of these touch-up markers. Get something as close as you can to the color and then just kind of go through and touch it up, almost like peel the paper off where it rips and touch it up that way. It's not gonna look perfect, but it'll be better than like where the bare wood is showing through. And it's just a shame because they are using solid wood, but just like that front sticker just peels off and then it looks like garbage and you feel like it's pressed board, but it's not. I'm starting to get a little worried that this isn't gonna fit. I don't wanna have to make the bottom cabinet shorter. I'm getting a little worried. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it in the same way I got it out. I'm gonna put it up on this like crate and then try to slide it in. It's not going to be in there permanently. I've got to still put that board in, but I want to measure everything out. See if I have to move that outlet in the back and everything else. Okay. I can't go in any further. I'm going to go around to the other side and see what's stopping it. I'm a little concerned now. So this is turning out to be a little bit bigger job than I thought it was. It's not a big deal. I decided to go with the bigger refrigerator. They actually have a smaller one at Rec Pro, but I wanted the bigger one because I felt like the smaller one was going to require more work because it was smaller than the opening that I had. Plus, it wasn't really made for built-in. It was made for freestanding. It's not a huge deal, but I'm glad Rachel's not here. So let me show you what's going on. These wires right here, the refrigerator's hitting. It can't get past the wires. So what we need to do is one of 2 things. We need to reroute these wires probably. So what I really need to do is be able to get the wires to come over here more, because this one is fine and there's plenty of slack, and basically get it to come down this area right here. So we can do either that, or we can lower that shelf, which we definitely don't want to do. So what I'm going to do is, I think I may open up this hole a little bit. The wires run down through this hole, which they have a bunch of sealant in. I removed the breaker box, and that's where the wires come in, and there's plenty of slack for me to pull a little bit more through. I only need about 3 inches to be able to reroute the wires and have them not in the way. So I got it in, not that big of a deal. I mean, the wires presented a little bit of an issue, but there was enough play down below in the control box area to pull some up, push it over to the side. I stapled a zip tie over in there and it kind of like wire tied it off to the side so there were no issues. I also took a piece of plywood, or the piece that was in there as like a diverter for the ceiling, and I capped off that hole because we don't need that hole anymore. It's not really going to help anything with, you know, the refrigerator. So right as I was getting ready to pull it back out to put the molding in, our son Caleb came home. So I asked him to come help me, and I'm glad I did, because right as we were pulling it out, we started balancing on the milk crate so that we can then push it to the side. A giant gust of wind came and it knocked it over as we were holding it. And I mean, it was a bad gust coming right through the hole. And yeah, we dented it just a little bit, but I have a solution for this. So we got that little dent. Won't go like that. Rachel will never know. So the last thing to do is go outside and secure it. So I've got to bolt it down somehow. I got to figure out how I'm going to bolt it down. And then we just need to make the electrical connections. I'm actually going to make the electrical connections first before I bolt it down. Okay, so all we have to do is wire everything up. We have positive, negative, and ground. In the instructions, it says if you're putting it in an RV, you should wire the ground to the chassis. So I ran an extra ground wire to the chassis ground. So we're gonna have positive, negative, and ground. And I did use a multimeter just to make sure everything is positive, negative, and grounded. So we're gonna go ahead and install that. Let's see if everything's right. So we're gonna go positive, negative, 14.4 volts. We're good. Okay, so everything's wired up. I can hear it running. As far as securing it, not many things I can do. So what I did was I took off this wire rack, and I'm gonna run a screw down through here. I'm gonna run another screw over here. That'll just kind of hold it from shifting back and forth. Then after that, I'm going to, what I ended up doing was testing the gas connection, making sure there's no leaks. And I pushed it down through this hole, took out the sealant. That's just below the sink. Like, this is the whole galley area over here. So push it down there so that I can push the refrigerator back more. And then I'm gonna put some spray foam there. I'm gonna push some spray foam underneath here, and then some spray foam down along the sides, just to help with the wind coming through. Well, we got it in. Overall, I don't think it was that bad. The entire installation with everything took me less than 2 hours. And that included having to modify the cabinet and rearrange the wiring a little bit. I would definitely do it again. And again, they have a smaller unit, which you probably could have put in here, but I feel like that would have actually required more modification, or it wouldn't have looked quite as custom because it was smaller than the hole that I had in here. So it really wasn't that bad. If you're at all handy, you could definitely do it. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple things that, you know, I might work on as we go along. So overall, I think it looks really good. It really fits in there well. And there were actually a couple of things that I started modifying that I didn't really need to. So up here, if you remember, we had two pieces of molding. We had a piece of molding, and then we had that paneling, and then we had another piece of molding. And after I got it in, you know, I thought I was gonna have to cut that to 2 inches. Turns out that the other one fit perfectly, so we didn't have to cut it or anything. It fits in there perfectly. Now, there is a slight gap on each side, which there's supposed to be. They actually say that you should have about, you know, a 1/2 inch gap on each side so that you can have proper ventilation. Now, we do have the hole in the back, so I'm not as concerned about the ventilation. But what I ended up doing was taking that insulation, and we did push it in there just so that you can, like, not get the wind whipping through from the back hole. And this side, the gap's a little bit smaller just because of the way everything's centered. Because of those wires, we had to shift it over one way. But you can see perfectly flush here. Now, the doors obviously do stick out past the cabinet, which they're supposed to. Up here on the top, you can see there is still a little bit of a gap. I put some foam insulation. Now, I can actually feel the wind whipping through here. I'm probably going to put a little bit more in there, but I'm going to get some black foam spray, even though you can't see it at all. So down along the bottom, we just put the insulation in there, and you can see the old refrigerator actually had chipped off some of that paper over there. So I'm going to get another pen and just kind of clean that up, but you really can't see anything. When you open up the refrigerator, you can see it a little bit. But it's really not too bad. That's just from the way the old refrigerator was sitting in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the refrigerator. We'll start off with the freezer. This freezer is huge. And it is nice and cold. It's been running for about 15 minutes. And I mean, you can actually see, you know, it's getting cold. Turbo cooling, frost free. This right here diverts the amount that's going down into the refrigerator. Right now I have it on colder, obviously. We have a shelf here. We have 2 pieces over here to put things in the door. We do have a lock here to make it so that the refrigerator can't open when we're in transit. And then getting into the refrigerator, I mean, this thing is huge. Here's our temperature control. Right now I have it on set on coldest. Also, if you hold this for 10 seconds, it will turn off the refrigerator if you need to turn it off and like not drain your battery. But you could also just pull the circuit. So we have it off like that. So we're gonna turn it back on. And we're gonna put it on 5 because we're trying to get it super cold right now. So these bars, they didn't come with it. They're from the old fridge. We got them just like online. It's really nice to make it so things don't shift. So you have a glass shelf here. You have a glass shelf here. Adjustable so you can put it wherever you want. We have a giant crisper drawer down here. It's not on a track, so I like that. As well as a glass shelf and a humidity control. Over here on the side, you got a place for a few cans of soda, a little piece in the door. Some things up here to hold, probably your eggs and stuff will fit in there. And then this will also hold gallon jugs. So I'm gonna go take a shower and then we're gonna show Rachel the finished product. So I didn't exactly go take a shower and grab Rachel. It's been 3 weeks since the last time you saw us.
That was a long shower and you are super clean. Now, we didn't want to come right back. We wanted to wait and live with this for a couple of weeks and see, is this a true upgrade or did we just swap out of appliances?
Yeah, now before we really talk about the refrigerator itself, I want to show you a couple of things that I did to just clean up the installation and make it look like it actually came in the rig when we bought it. So if you remember, after I put it in, we had that gap and I put the insulation down the side. What I ended up doing is just going to Lowe's and buying some wood molding. Yes, it's actual wood, but since it was only pieces of molding, it wasn't so bad. It was like $6. I needed 2 pieces. And then I went and I found the stain that matches this finish, which I'm going to put a link for that down below. It's the Minwax stain, and I believe it was like an ebony color, but it really matches perfectly. So I stained the wood, and then what I've done is I just kind of put it around the sides and along the top. I didn't go along the bottom because of the way the hinges are. However, we had down in here, if you remember, like there was wood and it had the paper covering, it was all peeling off. I took the metal like piece off of the bottom of the old refrigerator and I screwed it across here. And that just kind of gives a whole finishing look down here. So what are your thoughts on this refrigerator as far as the way it looks and how it, you know, is inside of the rig now?
Well, number one, I'm really glad I was not here for the installation because I would have been so scared at different points. Like definitely when the dent occurred, I would have flipped out. And then without the extra wood to frame it out, it just didn't look finished. So I think that really added so much to it. But I'm glad that I was seeing like the end result.
Well, the thing about the finishing molding around it, could you have survived without it? Yes. Yeah. It didn't look bad. I mean, it wasn't like it was just like an unfinished piece of wood. But putting the molding around it just makes it look like it came in the rig. There's no way when you look at this, people are going to think like, hey, it didn't come in the rig. It just looks like it was part of it. Plus, it gave me an excuse to buy a new tool because I went and bought like a narrow stapler because, hey, let's face it, a lot of the stuff in here, all the trim, it's all put together with staples. So now when a piece of wood comes off, I can just staple it back in.
Staple it right back in.
It was an excuse, but anytime you have an excuse to buy a new tool, like, I'm good with that.
Well, I'm fine because, yeah, there are little areas where you need to touch up around the trailer, so I'm actually glad to get that tool.
Yeah. Now, as far as the dent, this just makes it a Stauffer appliance. Because, like, all of our appliances have dents in them.
It was too perfect until the dent occurred. Now it's just right.
It's just kind of funny the way it happened because I had no problem getting the old one out, putting the new one in, and then when I get help, that's when the dent occurs.
Right, I know.
It's just like freaky gust of wind blowing through the back hole, and it just made it happen perfect. Let's talk about the refrigerator because I'm super impressed with this refrigerator.
Yeah, because the dent did not like affect how it, you know, works. And we put it through the Memorial Day ringer of like a 15-person party.
Yeah, it was definitely worth upgrading the size because we came camping for Memorial Day weekend and we had family come visit us because we stayed close to the house. And so everybody came. So we had enough food in here for 7 people plus our other 3 days. And we had lots of eggs, and we had lots of burgers and steaks, and there was so much room. We were able to have a couple of bags of ice in there.
Which was super helpful, and I think that everybody would just enjoy that, especially if you're in a summer trip and you need that extra ice.
Right.
Like, it just gets really hot.
Now, I wanted to talk about the efficiency of this thing because it's definitely, especially here in Florida, an upgrade when it comes to the cooling.
Yes.
It gets cold, and we're leaving it on like the 3 setting, and I keep having to go in and move things around because we were finding the refrigerator itself, when I had it up on 4 or 5 one day, the refrigerator was registering like 27 degrees, which we could never get that to happen.
Never.
When we had the other absorption fridge. So now that's on the top shelf. But what I was finding is the cold air blows from the freezer down into the refrigerator. There's like a little adjustment knob. We were actually freezing our eggs. The eggs, that's how cold it was getting in the refrigerator. So you don't even have to have it on the high setting. Now, it's great because we've been able to drive. Everything stays cold.
Well, and I like this little latch.
Yeah,
like
that is really helping.
Latch.
But what I really want to talk about was boondocking, because that was a concern. Though we don't do a lot of boondocking, I know somebody's switching from an absorption fridge, which is great for boondocking because you can run for a really long time on propane, over to this where now you're going to run on your 12-volt battery.
I think this has done it better. We actually let it sit, tried to use it for 3 days like that.
So here's what I did to really give it a test. When we got home, so we did the installation, we went on a trip. We loved it on the trip. We went down to the Keys. We came home. I did not plug it into the house. We normally keep our rig plugged into the house because of the refrigerator.
Right.
Now, we have 300 watts in solar power up on the roof. We left the refrigerator on. We put it on the lowest setting, and we kept food in there. Then I turned on lights. I still have my router on. I still have the modem on for our internet.
Okay.
And we left it like that for 2 weeks with our battery, and our battery never went down. So what we were finding is waking up in the morning, I would come out and check it. Battery had about 13 volts in it, and that's perfect. By midday, charged all the way back up because of the solar panel. So that was 2 weeks without ever plugging it in. We never had a low battery, leaving lights on in the rig. It was really efficient. I mean, the fact that, like, I know we could go out boondocking for a week, no problem, this thing is going to run.
That encourages me a lot, especially with storm seasons.
Right.
You know, in South Florida is always a concern. The fact that we could, like, pick up and go if we needed to, it's really awesome. So, in the end, I highly recommend this refrigerator. It's not too much work to install if you're switching out. You know, they do have a smaller one. For me, I wanted the bigger one. I'd rather make the hole bigger than try to fill in the hole. Yes.
But this one works really well. Now, it is actually going to be the same exact size as some other people's refrigerators. So it's just going to depend on what you have. For us, we were changing out from the absorption fridge over to the compressor fridge. I'm glad we did.
Me too.
It's the peace of mind of knowing that we don't have to drive with a flame behind the refrigerator anymore. We don't have to worry about the gas. We don't have to worry about the way the heat affects absorption down here in South Florida.
And it just works. It's just a giant refrigerator that works really well.
Yes. Now, I do want to send a big thank you to RecPro for providing us with this refrigerator. Now, if you're interested in getting this refrigerator or any other improvement parts for your rig, check out RecPro. There is a link for them down below in the description. And if you use that link, you're going to get 5% off of your purchase. Now, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. And don't forget to hit the little bell button. And that way, every single time we upload a new video, you'll be alerted to it. Until next time, happy camping.